Well, they can't hide from this anymore. The media's coverage of Doge has been nothing short of a smear campaign. Instead of focusing on the real waste and corruption being uncovered, they've been twisting the narrative to protect the establishment. But at a recent White House press briefing, Karoline Leavitt wasn't having any of it. She called them out for their blatant bias and didn't hold back. And today we're breaking down exactly what she said, and you're gonna absolutely love it. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
On Doge and the fraud claims, Elon Musk in the Oval yesterday gave us some information on that. We're just wondering if there's some proof, evidence. Is the White House willing to share evidence of those fraud claims, or can Elon Musk come to the briefing room and share material evidence of what he's talking about?
Sure, I would love for Elon Musk to come to the briefing room. That's why we had him go to the Oval Office yesterday, where I think he provided great answers. He was speaking in layman's terms, speaking common sense to all of you in the media, but also to Americans at home. But I would say especially to all of you in the media, because I think it's a real fallacy that there's this alleged lack of transparency when it comes to Doge. President Trump and Elon Musk have been incredibly transparent on what Doge is doing. There is an X account with the Doge handle. They are tweeting out what they are doing on a daily basis. They have a website where they are posting the receipts of the contracts that they are reviewing and the payments that they have stopped from going out the door. The secretaries of our departments have stopped from going out the door.
The way the MSM has been covering what Doge has brought to light ever since their work started is nothing but shameful. For instance, CNN put out an article titled "Elon Musk Made Doge a Family Affair to Humanize His Image," while MSNBC took the hysteria to the next level, with one of their articles claiming the short-term dangers of Elon Musk's power grab in the new Trump administration increase by the day. Yeah, uncovering senseless and wasteful government spending is a power grab. They're also working overtime with the hopes of creating a wedge between Elon and Trump and are spreading one misinformation after another. It's almost like a psyop at this point, but this wouldn't be a Karoline press briefing without talking about the phone numbers, and what that revealed is the definition of insanity.
As for the actual receipts, we are happy to provide them, and I actually brought some today because all of you know I love to bring the receipts. We have contracts upon contracts that we can send and provide this information to you. Let me be very clear. We are not trying to hide anything. We have been incredibly transparent, and we will continue to be. These are screenshots of contracts that Doge found across our government. This is a DEI contract, $36,000 for U.S. citizenship and immigration services. That is against the president's policies and his America First agenda. This is a $3.4 million contract, a Council for Inclusive Innovation at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Department of Commerce, another DEI contract that Doge identified. I can continue to go through these. Oh, I love this one. $57,000 for climate change in Sri Lanka. What is this doing to continue the interests of the American people?
Exactly. The things that keep coming out are absolutely mind-blowing, and what's worse is that these aren't contracts handed out by elected officials who can be held accountable. Not even close. This is unelected career bureaucrats spending taxpayer money on programs that do absolutely nothing to improve the lives of everyday Americans. Think about that for a second. We're not talking about investments in infrastructure, healthcare, or national security. We're talking about funds being funneled into pet projects, pointless studies, and programs that really serve no real purpose except to keep the bureaucratic machine running. Meanwhile, the MSM is deciding to attack Doge like their life depends on it, and they clearly passed all measures of ridiculousness. For example, this is what Joy Reid decided to talk about on her show.
I want to give you another one of the people that Wired, in their great reporting, has uncovered, has had at least some access to our data inside Treasury. It's a guy named Evan Korstein. He's 19 years old. He's a high school graduate. He works at Doge. He has access to U.S. government systems. His professional and online history call into question whether he would even pass a background check, typically required to obtain security clearances. Security experts tell Wired he runs something called Tesla.sexy, which operates a Russian website. He worked at a startup that hired convicted hackers. Someone using his Telegram handle solicited a cyber attack. And on his LinkedIn, and I apologize to the Saints out there, and we know a lot of the Saints listen to the show, he called himself Big, B-A-L-L-S. I won't say the whole word, so I won't be vulgar. That's what he calls himself. So Big, B-A-L-L-S has all of our social security data.
Is it just me, or have we seen similar allegations during Trump's first campaign? Do you remember the Russian hoax? Drop a like if you see the pattern here. I also love how all of a sudden everyone is acting concerned about our data. According to a report published by the Identity Theft Resource Center, quote, a record number of around 1,850 data breaches occurred in 2021 in the US. This represents a 68% increase compared to the 1,108 breaches in 2020. This includes private companies and different government agencies. These weren't just random incidents. They affected private companies and even government agencies. Funny how the media barely batted an eye back then, but now that Musk is actually challenging the status quo and exposing wasteful government spending, well, it's a crisis of epic proportions, apparently.
And here's one of their tweets that they posted about the mine. I believe this is in Pennsylvania, where the federal employee retirement system is being processed. Did anybody know this was even happening in our country before Elon Musk talked about it in the Oval Office yesterday? A lot of Americans didn't.
Are all those things you just mentioned fraud, or are they waste, or are they just contrary to the president's policies?
I would argue that all of these things are fraudulent, they are wasteful, and they are an abuse of the American taxpayer's dollar. This is not what the government should be spending money on. It's contrary to the president's priorities and agenda. And again, we can continue to provide you the receipts for all of the fraud, waste, and abuse. And if anybody in here wants to argue that the federal government is not fraudulent in some capacity, be my guest, because I think the American people watching at home would beg to differ.
And that is spot on. I want to talk a bit about the mine because it didn't get its fair share of coverage. The facility Elon mentioned is in Pennsylvania, and it's called the Iron Mountain. A decade-old article by the Washington Post, quote, reported that the retirement paperwork at the facility was processed entirely by hand and almost entirely on paper. The New York Post also reported that, quote, multiple efforts to modernize the system were made since the late 1980s, but none of them were successful. I mean, just look at this picture. We're among the most technologically advanced nations on the planet, yet a key government agency is stuck in the 19th century when it comes to record keeping. How has no one thought, hey, maybe we should digitize the system?
Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marjorie Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some in this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that Doge is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us, unfortunately. I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? And so that's the thing. Those are the things that Doge is working on every single day.
Well, to be fair, it wasn't Doge who uncovered the $2.7 trillion that was wasted since 2003. It was the Government Accountability Office, and they included this figure in their 2023 annual report. But here's the important part. Doge is making people pay attention. This number has been sitting in a report and largely ignored until now. And thanks to the spotlight on government spending, more Americans are finally waking up and demanding accountability. But I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get a conversation rolling in the comments down below. And if you want your friends to get their news from an independent and trustworthy source like us, please share the video with them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.